heturbhur mate sangostva karmani. So he says karmanne vadikaraste. That do that which is, do your duty. But ma phaleshu kadashana. Don't be obsessed with the results. Don't be attached to the results. Why not? Because ma karma phala heturbhur. Do not think that you are the cause of the results. Our duty is important, but our duty is not the sole thing that will bring about the result. So we do our part and leave the rest. So ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangostu akarmani. But do not be attached to not doing your work also. Why not don't be attached to doing your work? Because if we don't do our part, then the result is never going to come. Even if the rains come well, if the farmer has not sown the seeds, something will grow, but it won't be crops, it will be weeds. So therefore, when we work in life, so going back, so this is, what are the four factors? Can anyone repeat? Duty, desire, no, not desire, destiny, duration, lead to the desire. Yeah, thank you. Good. So now, when we say that somebody has a power to do something, so what exactly do we mean? And this power can be from our physical, our social, our environmental circles. See, sometimes the destiny might be so favorable as to just be invisible. Say for example, when we eat food. We eat food and we get energy. But actually, there's a long process that goes on in between that. After we eat food, that food has to be digested. And now scientists have been trying to compensate for various kinds of damages that might happen to the body because of various diseases or disruptions. So if the heart doesn't work properly, we have pacemakers. The kidney is not working, we have dialysis units. Now when researchers try to, if somebody's digestion fails, researchers try to make an artificial digestive machine. And they have found that actually they won't need a machine, they will need a factory. And the technology is so complicated that even with enormous advances, we have not come anywhere near making an artificial digestive machine. So what happens is that for most of us, the only time we think about our digestion is when it doesn't work. We eat and we take it for granted I get energy. So what is happening over here? For us, sometimes when the destiny is favorable, that means when the physical health is good, then there is duty, I eat food and I get energy. And I don't even realize that there is something else going on over here, which is enabling me to get the energy by eating food. So all of us are naturally good at certain things. Some people are just good at music. Some small children, they just, even when they're small, they just pick up a pair of kartals and start playing it. And there are some people who are just tone deaf. See, the most difficult situation is when people are tone deaf and they are deaf to the reality that they are tone deaf. That means they take up some set of kartal and they are blissful. And everybody around them is miserable. Because they just are not getting it. So now, if somebody is good at music, they don't even realize that actually there is something which is working out favorable for them, which is not necessarily in their control. And for somebody who doesn't have that musical ability, they struggle and just don't do it. They just can't do it. So here the duty is you pick up the kartal and you play it. But the destiny is the hands move in such a way that the music comes out, that the sound comes out musically. So here what is happening? the physical circle is favorable. When the physical circle is favorable, then things work out nicely. So similarly, there's a social circle or there's the environmental circle. And you say, there are some things we just assume that things are going to work out, but often they don't work out. Say somebody who has grown up in a healthy, happy environment, and say somebody whose parents were separated, and so somebody who's grown in a healthy, happy environment, they may just, it's a blessing, but they may not even realize it. That's just the way it is. But then they meet someone else who has never known maybe a father's love or a mother's love, and then they realize, okay, there's so much here which it's not, I just presume it is there, but it is not there. It is not necessary it will be there. And similarly, with respect to the environment, there are some parts of the world where throughout the year the weather is pleasant. And Srila Prabhupada, when he first came to London, it was in winter. And then London, UK was at one time ruling the world. And one of their slogans was that the sun never sets on the British Empire. And when Srila Prabhupada was there, Prabhupada said, the sun never rises in the British Empire. He was in winter and it was practically all the time it was rainy and cloudy. So, now these three are broad conceptual categories. Now where am I going by all this? That we talked about how we all have certain desires and there are factors beyond us that are involved for the fulfillment of our desires. So, to round this all together now, we talked about how we have desires, but we need to select our desires. And then we all have certain powers. So I talked about duty, destiny, duration, and result. So sometimes this destiny and duration might be so favorable as to be almost invisible. Sometimes that may be so unfavorable that the bridge between duty and desired result may never be built. So then what do we do? How do we function in our life in a way that can bring satisfaction? If we believe that the fulfillment of our desires is the way to happiness, and that's what we may naturally believe, but it is not that simple. That actually, more than fulfilling our desires, what is important is choosing our desires. Because all our desires can never be fulfilled. Not only can they never be fulfilled, but fulfilling all our desires may not even be good for us. Say suppose somebody starts eating whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. And they might enjoy for some time, but then they will become sick, their body will balloon out. And then eventually what will happen? It's like if we keep doing whatever we like, we end up disliking ourselves. If we keep doing whatever we like, suppose a student is meant to study for the exam, they say, no, I forget about studies. I'll watch this movie, I'll see this YouTube video, I will go on this site. And just keep surfing wherever they want to go and whatever they want to do. Then eventually, this whole period of 1 month for preparing for my exams, I did nothing. What a fool I am. So what will happen? If we keep doing whatever we like, we end up disliking ourselves. So we need to select our desires. And the Bhagavad Gita explains that we at our core are spiritual beings. As spiritual beings, we are part of a whole. So beyond the socials, beyond the physical circle, beyond the social circle, beyond the environmental circle, there is the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is known by different names in different traditions. The Bhagavad Gita, the Bhakti tradition knows that ultimate reality by the name Krishna. Krishna is the all-attractive, all-powerful, all-loving Supreme. And we are meant for a loving connection with the Supreme, for having a personal reciprocal relationship with the Divine. And what is the nature of that relationship? Developing that relationship is called Bhakti Yoga. So when we just did some kirtan before we started this talk, that is, this mic seems to be too humble. Okay, let's hope we can boost it with some self-esteem now. So when we have Bhakti Yoga essentially means that we connect with the Divine. And what we need for happiness, the Bhakti tradition tells us two things, is connection and contribution. Connection means we want to feel connected. We're connected with people around us and connected with the one beyond us. So when we feel connected, when we don't feel isolated, lonely, unaccepted, that ultimately we want a lot of things. We want wealth, we want looks, we want various things, but so that we can become lovable in the eyes of the world, so that we can have connections. So when we have a connection, so there are horizontal connections with others, there is a vertical connection with the Divine. So when that vertical connection is established with Krishna, that itself brings us some stability, some satisfaction, some strength. Because we understand I'm not just alone in a hostile world. That is ultimate, and I'm linked with the ultimate. Mamayivamsho jiva loke jiva bhutaha sanatanaha. We are eternal parts of the Divine. And when we link with Him, that brings stability, strength, and satisfaction for us. And then there is connection, and then there is contribution. Contribution means we all want our existence to count. I want to do something worthwhile with my life. And this is actually a very empowering way of looking at the world. As long as we think that our happiness depends on possession or on gratification. Possession means, what do I have? Okay, I got this car, I want to get that car. I got this phone, I want to get that phone. That's possession. And then we hope that the possession will give us gratification. I have a relationship with this person, I want a relationship with that person. And that person should do what I want them to do. Then I'll be happy. Now what happens? Possession and gratification, as long as we want these things, actually getting those are not in our control. We may be able to possess something, we may not be able to possess some things. But when our focus is on contribution, contribution means that, okay, whatever powers I have, whatever talents I have, whatever abilities I have, if I just use them in a mood of service, in a mood of contribution, then contribution is something which we can do at all times. Even if we are sick and immobilized on a bed, still maybe we can just smile and speak a few sweet words. And maybe seeing a person who is so sick, looking so cheerful, that can add a smile to somebody else's life. So when we focus on contribution, we can find that our existence can become meaningful no matter how little we have or how much we have. And when we start with that, so the harmony, let's take fourth quadrant where we want to be desire and power. So we select our desires so that we are connected with the Divine. We focus on, so the practices of Bhakti Yoga, they enable us to connect with the Divine. And when we are connected with the Divine, thereafter we use whatever powers we have to make that connection and to make a contribution. So when we do this, then if we want gratification or possession, then what happens is getting those may or may not be in our power, and that desire can easily get frustrated. But if my focus was making a contribution, then okay, what do I have right now? What is the position that I am in? Okay, in this position, This is the power that I have. So can I make a contribution? Can I make someone's day better? Can I do something which can make my situation better? And sometimes our mind may say, no, I can't make any contribution. No, I have no power. I'm in such a miserable, disempowered situation. I'll conclude with this point, and then we can have some questions. Yeah. So if our mind says that I am in a situation where, what can I do? I am so disempowered, I can't do anything. Then we can turn around and ask ourselves the question. Okay, things may be bad right now. Can I make things worse? Who wants to make them worse? Things are terrible already. Nobody wants to make them worse. But can we make them worse? See, no matter how terrible a situation may be, it never takes away our power to make that situation worse. So, some of you may notice I need crutches for walking. Now that one of my foot has polio. It's incurable. I can't do anything about it. I may say I'm powerless. I can take a hammer and crack my other knee. Now obviously I won't do that. And I shouldn't. But the point is, we are never as powerless as we think. If we have the power to make things worse, then we also have the power to make things better. Sometimes we may want to contribute in a particular way, and that may not be possible. But that doesn't mean nothing is possible. Okay, with the situation that I am in, how can I make a contribution? What can I do? Maybe I'm in a very terrible situation, and because I'm in a terrible situation, I tend to be irritable, I tend to be rude, I tend to be disagreeable. Sometimes some people fall sick, and then they become so abusive toward their caregivers, irritable and abusive, that they are sick, but they make their caregivers sick of them. So, okay, for the next 1 hour, let me be polite, let me be cordial. And if we have this attitude, we'll always find some way we can make a contribution. And the Bhagavad Gita concludes with Arjuna saying, Karishye vachanam tava, I will do your will. What it means is that we change our question in interacting with the divine. Instead of asking, oh, I have this desire, oh God, fulfill this desire, we change the question to, oh God, how can I serve in this situation? How can I contribute in this situation? When we have that attitude, Srila Prabhupada, the great saint who founded the Krishna consciousness movement, he said that the best prayer that we can offer is, oh God, give me the strength to serve you always. Okay, this is the situation I am in. How can I serve? How can I contribute? If we have that attitude, we'll find that no matter how dark the situation around us, we will be able to create a small flashlight. That question, how can I serve in the situation? That's like a flashlight. And the flashlight, we see one step forward. And the flashlight can't illumine the whole road, but we see one step forward. And then after that, as you take that step forward, you find the flashlight will show the next step ahead. And then next step, next step. So even if you got to go through very dark situations, if you can have this service attitude, how can I serve? If you got focused on contribution, we can always contribute and move ahead in our lives. And eventually this dark period will end and we will arrive at a brighter, better place. Closer to our Lord and closer to our spiritual potential to connect better and to contribute better. So I'll summarize. I spoke today on this topic of how our desires can be fulfilled in a way that brings fulfillment in our lives. So I started by talking about how we, in our lives, we have various desires, and in our infancy, we just have one strategy: cry, and we try to fulfill the desires. But as we grow up, we learn language by which we communicate our desires in a more sophisticated way, and we also understand responses in more nuanced ways, not just yes or no. One is fulfillment of frustration. There can be various degrees. So just as by language we communicate with our parents or caregivers better, similarly, spiritual growth means that we develop a more nuanced mode of communication with the overall reality, by which we understand how we can find fulfillment. So what is that more nuanced mode of communication? I talked about basically our desires and powers need to be harmonized. The four quadrants I talked about. No desire, no power is a state of depression and apathy. And a desire but no power, that is a state of frustration. Power but no desire is a state of misdirection, because we will end up abusing the power. Then we want it to be in the state of desire and power. I discussed how we will never have enough power to fulfill all our desires. So then we need to select our desires. So to situate ourselves in this fourth quadrant, to select our desires, we talked about how things work toward fulfillment. We talked about the 4 Ds. That there is duty, destiny, duration that leads to the desired result. So when we say that we have a particular power, that simply means that the destiny is favorable. Say somebody has a desire to sing or play a musical instrument, and they have the talent. Now what does it mean? That the talent over there is basically destiny has favorably arranged their physical bodily movements, bodily abilities. So sometimes destiny may be so favorable that the distance between our duty and our desired result may almost be invisible. And sometimes destiny may be so unfavorable that the distance between our duty and our desired result may be unbridgeable. So if we want to function in this fourth quadrant, then what we need to do is that change our definition of what will bring us satisfaction. Satisfaction comes not by possession and gratification, not by demanding from the world, give me this, give me that, but by connection and contribution. That when we connect with the divine is all attractive, all loving, all powerful. And just that connection with the divine, the absorption of the divine through prayer, through meditation, through mantra chanting, that itself can give us some satisfaction. And then there is contribution. So we, rather than thinking what is the world giving me, think what can I give to the world? And that is an empowering position to be in. And if we feel that, I have nothing to give to the world, we can ask ourselves, can I make things worse? No matter how bad my situation is, no matter how disempowered we may be, we are never so disempowered that we can't make things worse. If we can make things worse, we can make them better also. And when we start in small steps to make things better, that we do that by asking, how, in this situation, not why is this happening, why don't I have this, why is this not like this, but how can I contribute, how can I serve? And even in dark times, that will become that question, how can I serve, how can I contribute, will become like a flashlight. And will take us, even through the darkest of times, to a brighter, better place, where we are closer to our spiritual potential, closer to ultimate reality, and closer to deep fulfillment. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, any questions or comments? Yes, please.
My question, I love the lecture. I love this lecture. My question is, if we are performing duty on a path to our desire, does that make destiny God's duty to us?
I'll repeat. if we are doing our duty according to our desire, so then does destiny become God's duty to us?
Right.
Yes and no. At one level, reality is reciprocal. This is one of the defining differences between human beings and animals. Now, animals just function based on biological drives. That is that, say, when an animal is hungry, just see, like if a cat sees a mouse, the cat can't think, oh, today is Ekadashi, I meant to fast. The cat will just pounce on it. But now animals may also prepare for the future. We say a frog may burrow a hole when its winter is approaching. But that's what the frog does. The frog doesn't think, oh, I want to be on the beach, by the beach enjoying, but I have to do this. They're biologically driven, basically. But we humans understand that reality is structured in such a way that we can trade the present for the future. That is, say for example, students can just enjoy life. Teenagers can enjoy life. But if the teenagers are a little mature and responsible, then understand that, okay, if I study right now, I might enjoy right now if I just fool around, but if I study right now, then I can have a bright career ahead. So, basically we trade the present for the future. So, reality is structured in such a way that if we sacrifice, the essence of sacrifice is what? So we give up something which is immediately enjoyable to gain something that will be eventually relishable. So now reality is structured in that way that if we work diligently in the present, that can create a brighter future for ourselves.
Thank you.
So now that's one part of the answer. I said yes, but that is not the whole answer. So there is also no to it in the sense that we can't know in advance which trade-off of the present will work for what future gain. It's not necessary that just because I work at something very diligently, that has to always be successful. There are some things which may just not happen. And that's why we human beings have to choose our battles. Say, if, like I said, if somebody is just tone deaf and they think that I want to become the next Mozart, well, they may practice for a whole lifetime, but that may not work. So we also have to be intelligent in choosing our desires. So it's in general, if we work diligently in a mood of service and contribution, then we will be guided from within. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapayamite. That we will get the divine guidance from within of how to reorient ourselves. So it's not necessary that just because I have a very strong desire for a particular thing and I'm working hard, that desire itself will be fulfilled. But if we are working diligently and we also understand the nature of ultimate reality, and we're not doing that work just for my own pleasure, but because I want to make a contribution. Whatever abilities I have, whatever talents I have, I want to use them constructively. Then, okay, if a particular area is not working, then, and if we are spiritually receptive, we'll be guided, okay, no, don't focus on this, focus on all this. So say, it could be said that what we are is God's gift to us. What we become is our gift to God. And in that way, reality is ultimately reciprocal. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And what I saw with what you were saying is how when the farmer does the work as duty, they produce the eggplants. But when the farmer doesn't do the work, they produce the weeds.
Yes, that's true.
So
Thank
I
you.
see the results. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question. Uh, like you said, there is desire and then there is power. I was just wondering, what do you mean by power? Desire, I know, like the willingness we have, or the things we want to do or we want to pursue in our life. But what do you mean by power? Is this something situational or?
Okay, what do I mean by power? Basically, I talked about how desire is something which is in our control. But for getting the desirable, there are many other things which are required which need to fall in place. So, power is the capacity to arrange things in such a way that the desire takes us to the desirable. Say, for example, I have the desire to eat a particular kind of food. Then power means either I can cook that food or I can buy that food. I have the money for that or I have the skills for that. So then desire and power, that will take us to the desirable, the fulfillment of the desire. So with respect to any area we may be in, suppose somebody wants to become a say an engineer, a doctor, or somebody wants a particular kind of house in a particular locality. That's the desire. So then particular powers will be needed for fulfilling those desires. So power in this context essentially means what is required for that desire to be fulfilled.
Okay.
To work that out.
So you mean the person wants to buy the house, so power means they have the money also.
Yes, money is just one thing. Then so many other things also come into the picture. Then they have the money. They need to. The person who has that house, should need to sell the house, and they should have the capacity to be able to move in that area. So all the other factors that are required by which that particular desire can be translated into reality.
Okay. So that means we can say if our destiny is in our favor.
Yes, then we have that power.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else has questions?
Yes, yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I want to share with you like a previous question I had answered to not confuse you with my actual question.
Okay.
So it's very similar, but they're kind of different in context.
Yeah.
So my previous question that I had answered was about why are we placed in this reality, and my answer was to find God. We were supposed to be frustrated. And so my question is now, why does God, if He is all powerful, not just and has like the will to do anything, why does He will us into the world? Why does He create the world and create us when He could just simply sit back and just enjoy Himself?
Okay. So why does God create us and will us and send us into this world when He could just sit back and enjoy? There are ultimately the purpose of existence is the reciprocation of love. We can have peace in solitary meditation, but love requires interpersonal reciprocation. There's a difference, peace and love. So sometimes we use the word created, that God created us. But that is a limitation of vocabulary. Because we were never created, we are eternal. God is eternal, we are eternal. But sometimes we use the word God is created, not to show chronological precedence, but to show causal dependence. Like the sun and the sun rays are always together. But can we envision a sun without sun rays? What is the meaning of a sun without sun? Sun and sun rays are together. So it's not that the sun chronologically precedes the sun rays. But still, the sun rays causally depend on the sun in terms of cause. So when we talk about creation, first of all, it's not if God created us, if you want to use that word, that is not in the sense of chronological precedence. It is in the sense of causal dependence. So having clarified that, so it's never that God existed and we didn't exist. we are all eternally coexisting. And the purpose of this coexistence is the reciprocation of love. Now, the reciprocation of love requires free will. Say a boy proposes to a girl, he gets down on their knees and offers her, please marry me. And then she says no, and takes out the gun, I'll shoot you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, that's not love, isn't it? That's not love. So there has to be free will. So the free will lesson. So if we are to love God and enjoy the reciprocation of love with Him, then we need to have free will. And the very existence of free will requires the existence of arenas where that free will can be exercised. So, if we are to rejoice in loving God, we also need to have the option of not loving Him. And the world provides us that arena as options. And God gives us free will, but He also gives us wisdom. So He gives us wisdom through the spiritual traditions. He gives us wisdom when He Himself descends. He gives us wisdom through the saintly teachers. And through it all, He is helping us to reconnect with Him. Now, in the world, yes, there are so many options. I was in Melbourne and someone asked me this question that if God wants us to do good, then why are the bad choices so many in the world? So I answered, that's how it is in any multiple choice exam. So, 5 options, 4 are wrong. And the student could sue the teacher. You say 40% passing marks, but 4 options wrong means my probability of getting it wrong is 80%. So you are responsible for my failure. But the choice is the choosing is based not on probability but on education. So similarly, yes, the world has multiple options for us, multiple ways in which we can forget God. But it doesn't have to be like that. If we wish to turn towards Him, if we desire, then gradually we'll be guided. And we will be able to take the right options. It may happen slowly, it may happen quickly for different people. But the more we use our free will rightly, the more the right use of the free will become clearer to discern for us. This is in ordinary life also. If somebody has never cared about the kind of food that they eat, just keep eating junk food. But then, even among whatever, then they might just have only junk food as their options to eat. But even among them, they become a little conscious. I'll eat the least unhealthy among the food that I have. Then in future, if their consciousness develops, okay, then they might hang out with people who eat a little more healthy food, and healthier food options will come up for them. And gradually they'll be able to move towards healthy food. So similarly for us, sometimes among the options that we have, if we just make the best choice, then gradually better choices will become easier for us to discern and execute. And we'll move closer and closer to God. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So in your talk you mentioned about how we can ourselves help and contribute to society or to others, and how we can do because always we have that power, either we can make things better or worse. So my question was, sometimes definitely we are in that frame of mind, especially hearing such powerful talks. Thank you for the talk, very very nice. And then sometimes when depending upon the association, but staying in that frame of mind is not always. Somebody fluctuates. Sometimes things come in a way that we just have that force of acting in a way, maybe out of frustration or lack of clear ideas. So how to stay in that frame of mind all the time?
Yeah. So how to stay in a spiritual frame of mind of service consistently. That's tough. Even if we can't be consistent, we can be resilient. Consistency means this is the direction I'll always move. But resilient means even if I move off, I'll come back. I go off, I come back. And that's how largely life moves. You said that a plane, say, day after tomorrow I'm flying from here to India. So one of my friends is a pilot. He told me that 90% of the time of the flight, the plane is off course. And how does it get to the destination? Because it's constant reorienting. The plane goes because of the wind, because of its own momentum, because of the atmosphere. It might go off course, but it's brought back on course. Goes off course, bring it back on course. Goes off course, bring it back on course. So the essence of commitment is recommitment. The essence of commitment, it's not that I make a commitment and this is how I want to stay. Our mind is too fickle, it doesn't work like that. So the essence of commitment is recommitment. Okay, these are the values I want to live according to. This is the purpose I want to pursue in my life. So I start off, I get off course. Then maybe if every day we have some time for our spiritual practices, for our reading of some wisdom texts, then that is the time when we are reminded. We have to reorient. So what we can do is try to create at least some time in our daily schedule which reminds us of our values and purposes. Sometimes we have a long list of to-dos in our life, and our spiritual practices also become just one more to-do. I have to do this meditation, I have to go for this talk, I have to do this service. And then it's good at least that we are doing it. But if we are not reorienting ourselves, we are not recommitting ourselves, then that becomes also like a burden. So bhakti is not just another to-do in life. Bhakti is actually another way to do. It's another way to do our to-dos. The many to-dos that we have, another way to do, another consciousness with which to do those things. So we need some time on a regular basis where we can reorient ourselves like this. And life will be like life is like being in a stormy ocean, and waves will come upon us. So the waves can come just based on our own moods. Sometimes we feel like doing something, sometimes we don't feel like doing something. The waves can come in terms of situations, where sometimes some emergencies come, just consume all our time and energy. So when the waves come, we can't fight against the waves. But that doesn't mean we have to be swept away by the waves. What we can do is that we can find an anchor. If we find an anchor to hold on to, then even if the waves hit us, they won't hurl us away. We'll be pushed, but the hold of the anchor will get us back. So we have to find out our anchors in life. What is an anchor? Essentially, if you consider as a circle of things we like to do, and circle of things that are good for us. Now, if these two circles were identical, life would be enjoyable. But that doesn't mean that these two are entirely disjointed. That if you consider a Venn diagram, there's a place where the two circles intersect. And in the intersection of what we like to do and what is good for us, in that intersection will be our anchor. So if somebody likes music, and then there is spiritual music that uplifts their consciousness, then keep that spiritual music readily accessible. You say, if we like to read, and there are some wisdom texts in which we have found some passages which we really feel inspired by, then highlight them, keep them readily accessible, and then read them. Remind yourself of them. Maybe read them aloud. That will be the anchor. So once we get that anchor, then even if life's stormy waves sweep us, they hit us, they won't sweep us away that much. So that's how we can recommit ourselves. So we can't always be consistent because life is unpredictable, but we can be resilient. And we become resilient by recommitting ourselves. And we recommit by finding an anchor that we can hold on to. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Prabhu, I was wondering if you can tell about the books you've written for just 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So,
So there are some of the books which are written by His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu, and I just requested him to say maybe a few words about each of those. So I think more than 25 books are there, but he has brought only a few today.
yeah. So there are two of these new books. It's one book. It's actually a set of multiple books. Gita Wisdom Through Quotes. This is 365 thoughts inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. So, like I talked some of the points you mentioned in the class today. That so, for example, that I talk about destiny and duty. So many of these points are in this book. So resentment of reality often hurts more than reality. That if something goes bad happens and you resent it, that hurts us much more. Then I talk about contribution and connection. Satisfaction comes not just by possession and gratification, but by connection and contribution. So thoughts like these are there. Life determines our problems, we determine their size. There are 365 quotes like this, and it's a very accessible way of presenting the Gita's wisdom. For reminding ourselves as well as for sharing with others. Thanksgiving is coming and New Year is there, Christmas is there. So often we give people Bhagavad Gita as it is, and unfortunately they just keep it as it is. They don't read it. So because they feel it's too big, too forbidding. But some small quotes inspired by the Bhagavad Gita can inspire them to read the Bhagavad Gita. So each of these quotes, if somebody Googles it, they'll take it to my website, Gita Daily, where there's a reflection on this and there's a connection with the Gita verse and the Gita commentary of Srila Prabhupada explaining it. And this is another one of my latest books. This is Gita, this is Ramayana, wisdom from Ramayana on life and relationships. There are about 20, Ramayana is an ancient Indian epic. The 20 stories from that epic are narrated and practical life lessons. Why do good people sometimes do bad things? Kaikai was a virtuous queen, but she's had Ram exiled. What possessed her? So what possesses people to make them do bad things? Or much of what I talk about destiny and duty, that's given over here. When something bad happens to us, when do we decide that I should just accept this as destiny, or when should we fight against it and change it? So when Ram was exiled to the forest, he accepted that as destiny. But when Sita was abducted, Ram didn't accept that as destiny. He fought to change it. So why? So what is destiny? What is free will? That's explained quite systematically. And then one of the most perplexing questions from the Ramayana is, after Ram won the war and got Sita back, why did he send her away? So all those are answered in this book. And there are a few other books also. This is a book based on a Bollywood movie. And there are two Bollywood movies, OMG and PK, that were satires on religion. And they made some valid criticisms of blind religious superstitions. But there were also many generalizations. So the questions which are raised in those movies and answered in this book. This is OMG re-answering the questions. We may also have another book over there, GK for PK. So that is, the questions of the movie PK are answered three ways. GK stands for God knowledge, Gita knowledge, and general knowledge. So based on that, the questions are answered. So if you would like to have these books, they are available behind. I also have two websites, gitadaily.com. Gita Daily is also a Facebook page as well as a WhatsApp group. So every day you can get a 300-word meditation on the Bhagavad Gita, along with a 5-minute audio video that can be a daily spiritual refresher for you. And that's the Bhagavad Gita Facebook page has almost nearly 1 million followers. So it's many people across the world find it helpful. And the other is The Spiritual Scientist, where many of my lectures are there and almost 6,000 questions have been answered, the kind of questions we had after the class. So any question that you may have on spirituality, that's website is like an encyclopedia. where you have answers to those questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So let's give a big round of applause one more to Chaitanya. Here we go. So we have 2 minutes of Kirtan. Kishori, can you do the Kirtan? We have 2 minutes of Kirtan followed by Prasadam. Make sure everybody take Prasadam before you leave. As mentioned, the books are here in the book table, so anybody wants to buy them, they can stop by. Where was it?
Let me do it.
No, I didn't see it.